fans, another episode of the Field of 68 Best Bets show. The weave is all here. I'm Matt. That's Jim. That's Kai. Collectively, we are one, all brought to you by our fine sponsor at BetRivers. I'm still stuck in Maui against my will. But Jim and Kai are on the mainland. Jim is just a stone's throw from plenty of hoops, which we'll talk about many of those Vegas-based tournaments today. Still upset that he hijacked the Maui from its rightful home here on the island. And Kai, you're still
sprinting straight to it as soon as this show ends, Matt. I'm sprinting to Texas A&M, Wisconsin as soon as the show ends.
I'm actually relocating hotels today to one across the street from the Lahaina Civic Center. So I'll probably go up there and get some shots up and drown my sorrows since it's not actually present on the island. Kai, how are you?
That'll be great for your confidence, though, because those rims, man.
I know. They're so nice. Just you hit it on the rim, it's just like a suction. It's like the Space Jam hole when Michael Jordan gets golf. Right. Thank you. You know what I'm saying. Kai, how are you, man? How are you? How are things?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Every single day is a gift.
It is. Wow, man. So thankful. 'Tis the season.
Are you John Rothstein? Every day is a gift. Art lovely.
That's the attitude.
I'm wearing all black like the Grim Reaper, emblematic of my gambling performance yesterday. So if I'm in a morbid mood, that is why. So I need to humble myself, ground myself as a new fresh week awaits us. The show outline today is the usual structure. We'll get to the takeaways. Let's do it right now. What did we learn yesterday besides the frustrations that we dealt with? Did we learn anything, Kai?
Matt, I don't know if I learned anything. Oh, I did learn one thing. North Carolina, just not a great basketball team, guys. They're 0-5 against the spread. Really, really disappointing game against Tennessee. Just, I don't know if it's not well coached, but the defense is bad. The guards are frankly just dumb. So UNC, a team I will not be looking to back again anytime soon.
Hey, my takeaway is that it was kind of a confirmation of something I had a sneaking suspicion of after Friday night, but Arizona is a national title contender. Like, they are that good. They are that big. They are that long. They have a point guard. That was the major concern coming into the year. And Kirk Kriisa, he kind of owns the game. Like, he owns the tempo. His head is always on a swivel. He had 7 assists and 0 turnovers against Michigan's defense. Like, he's legit. Arizona is legit. Matt, that's a title contender.
I agree. I didn't say that emphatically yesterday, but I sort of danced around it. So if those of you were picking up and I was putting down, haha, I told you so. Can I say that? No, I can't. Kai, I learned yesterday that the large underdogs, which we so belovedly backed early in the year, have lost their bark. A lot of collapses late yesterday. I saw a little bit of that on Saturday as well. I wonder how that trend moves into feast week. You kind of have the awkward scheduling spot with kids going home for break. It's, again, tough to sort of pick apart which dogs are most likely to wave the white flag, or do they view it more as hey, this is our last game before we go home. Let's give it all we got. A lot of weird things happening. So just something to keep an eye on. I would almost advise betting more first halves if you have that opportunity, because there's nothing more fun than a second half meltdown, right, guys? Nothing like a 6-minute scoring drought to follow the end. Ha, 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 ha.
Yeah, well, no one does that. Come on,
never.
Get out of here.
Bitterness just permeating through my teeth right now. All right, let's get to the outline. Let's talk some actual games of competent basketball squads. First off, Ohio State, Seton Hall. Kai, I'm going to you here first. The spread opened up right around pick. It's been hovering within that neighborhood for most of the overnight. It's not.
Seton Hall is like -2.5 now.
It's up to 2.5 now. Man, my screen is delayed. I apologize. Internet connection poor out here on the island. But I think we agree with that money, Kai. We've been Seton Hall advocates all season. We've talked at length about Ohio State's warts, especially due to some of the injuries they have, Justice Suing being a key one. What do you make of this game?
Yeah, if Suing was in the lineup, you wouldn't see this spread like this. I think it's definitely a reaction to the injury, which is very warranted. Also a reaction to Seton Hall's performance this year. They beat Michigan. Ohio State didn't look great against Xavier. Jim, right now, Seton Hall is number 1 in the country in effective field goal percentage. Teams are shooting 13% from 3 against them. That sounds like regression, but they have a lot of long wings. I think they are really good defensively. I'm not sure Seton Hall can guard EJ Liddell. I don't think yet that can do very well away from the basket, but TBD, I guess, on that one. I'm staying away from Ohio State without Suing because their offense could struggle. 2.5 is too many points for me to lay with Seton Hall.
Yeah, I'm with you. Seton Hall is a team that what I'm trying to figure out with them right now is consistency. Like, I think we know that the top end ability is there. That game at Michigan was super impressive, especially the late stretch to come back and win. But it was not their strength last year. Consistency. I mean, like, they were kind of all over the place. and it's a lot of the same guys. I know they brought in Richmond and Yetna, but I just kind of want to wait and see. I think they're better than Ohio State right now, especially this version without suing. So the spread makes sense to me. But it is not a game I'm looking to get involved with. I made Seton Hall a very slight favorite. So it's about right, Matthew, unfortunately. Just want to see if Seton Hall puts it together again and they win this game by, 10 points, then it's like, all right, we've got something here. The Pirates are really, really good.
Yeah, it'd be pretty awesome to have two notches on their belt, both the Ohio State and Michigan one. We'll see if Kevin Willard and the boys get it done. I'm with you. I think the line's pretty sharp. Some money took the over under from 138 to 136.5, 137. So implying a low scoring drag out type of affair where defense rules the day. I think we could see that playing out as well. So yeah, nothing profound there. Should be a good basketball game. Looking to learn a lot about Seton Hall and still in wait and see mode on Ohio State. Next up, Butler, Houston. Butler's just a depressing team to talk about. Again, injuries continue to run rabbit through that program. I've lost track, Jim, of keeping tabs on who's playing, who's not playing. Miles Tate, Bo Hodges, Aaron Thompson. Do you have any intel on that? I'm just, like I said, mentally exhausted trying to keep pace with these Bulldogs.
Tate and Hodges are out. I believe Bryce Enzi is out an extended period
of time. And Enzi is out as well, too.
Thompson is back. My number I couldn't quite get it there. And even if I goosed with the injuries, but I just think Houston destroys them. Like, I don't know how Butler scores. They're just too big. Without Enzi, it's going to be hard to compete on the glass. And that's the route for Houston getting points. It just feels like a crock-pot game. Like, even if they come out a little slow, I think Tremont Mark might debut for Houston. Even if he's a little, not quite in rhythm to start, it feels like as the game goes on, Houston is going to wear them down. They're obviously lacking a little depth with those injuries. It just feels like the Cougars game, Kai, even with the spread, getting close to double digits.
Yeah, spread's like 10 or something like that. That's correct. Ballooning it that high. My gut, Jim, says Houston murders them. I guess if you're a Butler fan, you're hoping, okay, it's going to be a low possession game. KenPom projects 62 possessions. That definitely favors double-digit dog. But like you said, I don't see how they score. Like, literally, I don't see how they score against Houston at all. I don't think they even stop Houston either. I think Houston's going to score pretty efficiently. Matt, even with Aaron Thompson back, they still got killed by Michigan State. So I think this one's either a Houston bet or a stay away.
I agree. I think Houston routes them. We all were sort of jaded by the Hofstra opening game scare, and they did escape in overtime. But since then, they beat Rice by 1 million, and they put Virginia in Virginia's own crockpot, the recipe they've used for years. We know Virginia is a shell of itself this season, but still, it's a Virginia basketball team. They dominated from wire to wire. They won by 20. And I think that opening game struggle against Hofstra almost leaves like an ounce of value left for Houston, especially in a pretty juicy matchup where Butler's feistiness and gritty mentality is just negated by Houston. And they have no talent or skill or shot making really to fall back on. So I think Houston sort of, just sucks the life out of the Bulldogs here. Agree. Yeah, consensus opinion on that one.
Heavily tempted to be like, I'm going to adjust 8 for the injuries just so I can bet Houston. I'll be in person, so I'll let you guys know tomorrow. But man, I this feels like on paper a mega mismatch.
Yeah, the odds makers smartly we don't want any part of Butler exposure or Houston exposure, so they're just kind of hedging themselves, shielding themselves against it. Next up here on the outline, St. Mary's versus Notre Dame. Smarts versus smarts, execution versus execution. In some ways, looking in the mirror are these two teams, Kai. In general, the one change from the priors of both squads is for Notre Dame on the defensive end specifically. I made a lot of hubbub about the apparent behind-the-scenes defensive schematic changes that the Irish were implementing, and so far it's looked pretty damn good. Their defense has held up in their opening test, albeit not against elite competition by any means. They're playing more size. They're playing a pack line type of defense. Mike Bray trying to fix the Achilles heel. It's always sort of held back his teams have struggled, especially in recent years. Do you think St. Mary's exposes that tonight, or do you think that defense shows up against the Gales' execution?
Yeah. Hey, ironically, there's a school called St. Mary's right next to Notre Dame. I think it's an all-girls college. I do not believe Notre Dame is better than St. Mary's. So Notre Dame being favored is a surprise to me, or I guess it's a welcoming thing, because I think St. Mary's wins this game. Matt, Notre Dame has 2 games under their belt, but didn't cover against High Point. Haven't looked great. St. Mary's has 5 games under their belt.
Didn't cover against Northridge either.
They didn't cover against Northridge either. Yeah. And Mary's has looked very solid. I still think Notre Dame's defense is suspect. I think St. Mary's is going to slice them up. So I'm leaning towards St. Mary's, Jim.
Yeah, this one, it's going to be slow, but man, I think both offenses can score. Like the execution is going to be pristine. The weakness, I think, for both teams is when they face overwhelming athleticism. And since they're looking in the mirror at versions of themselves that are not going to provide that, I think the execution is really high. I'm not strong enough to recommend an over here, unfortunately. But man, I think this is going to be a pretty good nightcap. And actually, I will have a best bet here later. I'm going to tease that. We're not going to give it away early. I want to keep the people around to the end of the show so that they know what the best bet is. It is coming from this game, Matthew.
Yeah, I wonder if they think you're going to go against Kai here. A little head-to-head in that teaser. I'm with Kai. We'll see where you're at, Jim, but I'm with Kai. I think the Gales are the slightly better team, and the market has the wrong team favored. So I like the Gales. Next game, another mid-major showdown, Vermont versus Oakland. Both mid-majors who are really challenging themselves out of conference.
Starts in 20 minutes.
Starts in 20 minutes. So let's fast or hit the double tap fast forward 2 times speed here on your podcast live feed. I love me some Grizz. I have for the last 3 seasons. I back them pretty much every game. It's been one of the few money-making investments that's been a part of my college basketball portfolio. Jim, Vermont, a different beast. Smart, balanced. They have a lockdown defender in Ben Shungu who they can slot him on Jalen Moore, who's really the head of the snake for Oakland's offense. But the key is Jamal Cain, who is just an outlier talent on a team like Oakland and the Horizon. Do you think Vermont has an answer to him?
Probably not in terms of just a specific one-on-one matchup. I don't know, maybe throw Patella or Duncan Powell on him, but one-on-one, he's trouble. The advantage on the other end though is Oakland's playing that zone, and you can't zone Vermont. The ball movement's too good. They scored over 1 point per possession last year against zone, like an 87th percentile nationally. I think they're going to be able to pick them apart. They'll play through Davis inside. He's a good passer. Everyone on that roster is a good passer. They've got shooters this year. I think that is the worry for me. The last thing I'll mention, though, and I will beat this drum until it finally corrects, is that in Oakland games, no one makes threes. It just doesn't happen. Oakland is 352nd in the country at 20.6%, and they're allowing the 22nd lowest conversion rate at 24%. So at some point, I think both teams are going to make 50% in an Oakland game, and maybe that's the one, and today is the day that it goes over, but I just can't keep seeing those splits and thinking it's going to continue, Kai. It blows my mind.
Yeah. Hey, fun game. Yeah, Vermont's been immense this year. And Matt, we know Oakland, your boys, have beaten Oklahoma State, Toledo, before getting killed by Bama. I don't think Oakland's going to stop Vermont. I think Vermont finally starts hitting shots, like Jim said. That 3-point regression is going away defensively. Oakland's not going to force turnovers against Vermont. They've done that very well in their first few games. Vermont has the 3rd lowest TO rate in the nation. They are just super sturdy with the ball. Steph Smith's been awesome. Excuse me, not Steph Smith, Ben Shungu. And Vermont's D's been solid too. They can control the glass, which is a key avenue of scoring for Oakland. Matt, I agree. Vermont has no answer for Kane. Oakland has no answer for Ryan Davis. I think he's going to have a really, really good game in here. I lean towards the over as well, Jim. Side spreads about right, staying away.
Yeah, the 3-point regression concerns worry me, but there's also some counteracting force on Oakland's side. They are shooting 21% themselves as a team. It's not a great shooting team. I don't think this is like a St. Mary's type of regression upside here, but Jalen Moore and Jamal Cain are 5 of 41 from downtown. They are both better shooters than that. I'm not saying they're high 40s, but they're mid 30s, I would say. So hoping those two counteract and my value that I see in the Grizz sustains. And now we will take a break for chat mob inquiries. Who is running the czar of that forum today?
I've got a couple for you.
Take it away, Jimmo.
Jordan Block asking about TCU and Santa Clara. Santa Clara has been a monster against the spread. They pushed their opener against Fullerton, and they've covered every game since then by at least 15, I believe. But they will be without Joseph Vrancic, their arguably most important player. Jalen Williams has been really good too, but he has mono, so that's a problem. TCU has some fringe injuries of their own. Damian Baugh not going to play for this one. The spread felt about right to me. I am honestly kind of done fading Santa Clara because I just don't know if I can keep up with the rating. They've been unbelievable so far. Matt, I know you went for Stanford against Santa Clara, and now we've been a little scared away. Do you see some value on the Horned Frogs today?
I was hoping some money would hit Santa Clara and maybe I could catch TCU at a cheap price, but no, there's apparently a good chunk of whales out there who see what I see, that the Santa Clara team can't be this good. I can see they're really good. I just don't think they're as good as they're being priced. It's now up to 3.5 on the Horned Frog. So no, Kai, I can't lay 3.5, especially with the hook. Maybe at 3 you could talk me into it, but not doing it right now.
-3 at BetRivers, Matt. It's increased because of Rankage being out of this game. Obviously, he's their best player. Santa Clara's best player. Santa Clara is this good. They are very, very good, especially with Rankage in the lineup. Without him in the lineup, though, I like TCU. Loved him at the opener. Right now, -3. Can't really recommend it.
All right, next one from Larry. George Mason in Washington. Larry did ask 2 questions, but we will get to the second one. I believe he asked Nevada, South Dakota State is on the outline. George Mason and Washington from the Pentagon in South Dakota. Washington's been awful, lost 2 bye games. They're 0-4 against the spread. George Mason, though, is coming off a loss to James Madison. Kai, do you think they bounce back, get the victory over the Huskies, and keep Mike Hopkins on the hot seat?
Oh, yeah, they'll definitely win this game. But 4.5 is now the spread. I can't recommend it there.
That is high. That's a little too high. Matt,
Washington,
any opinion there? No.
Just kind of a funny thing that Washington's not, a pretty sizable dog to George Mason on a neutral side, kind of indicative of where the program sits. So
yeah, I mean, if you had made the spread on opening day, I imagine Washington would have been like -5. But
right,
these
it's the other way.
Just going mega different directions right now. Will Collins asking about SMU and Loyola Marymount. Kai, SMU collapsed again in the second half yesterday.
Oh, shocking!
Tigers.
No, not SMU.
It is starting to become a Tim Jankovich problem and not a one-time aberration. It's just constant. And they lost in overtime. I would take on an LMU team that has woefully underperformed preseason expectations. Got run out of the gym by Florida State late in the first half, and then the second half was never close. This number's been bet up. People are on SMU. They're buying back in on them. Do you think LMU wakes up and lives up to some of the hype, or are the Mustangs to play?
Neither team I feel good about backing. Neither team I feel good about fading, because I do think they're both due for a very good game right now. SMU just looked barf terrible against Mizzou. And like I said, blew a
Mizzou does that to teams. Yep.
Yeah. Maybe LMU could do that to them as well. They are really big, but they've been playing terrible this year as well. It's a game I want no part of, so I'm staying away.
Yeah,
Same.
That's kind of how I feel about it as well, unfortunately.
It's one team it's one team I know I'm really high on, and one team I know I'm probably too low on, and I'm worried my stubbornness is playing a part of both factors. So I'm going to take my hands off the wheel here.
I was like maybe willing to take SMU at 2, but it's up at like 3.5, 4. No thanks. Not interested. Joe George wants to know what's going on with the UCLA Bellarmine spread. It's only 19.5. UCLA definitely has the athletes on them. But Bellarmine executes really, really well. The comparison I'm thinking of here is I think Bellarmine was like a 19-point underdog at St. Mary's. Now neutral court that's going to be pretty pro UCLA. It's only 19.5. Matt, it does feel a little bit low just on
20 and a half
BetRivers
current.
20.5 going up. Okay. I think that's the right direction. It probably makes sense, but it feels like UCLA is a lot better than this team.
It does. I'm looking at the opening day number. Purdue hosted Bellarmine and it closed -24. So think of, kind of put those two next to each other. This does feel low to me. I've backed UCLA twice this year. Shocking, as someone who was sort of like, hey, relax. UCLA is not emphatically the best team in the country. Bellarmine's great and they can execute, but the way UCLA pushed the tempo, they're playing much better as a large favorite this year than they have in years past under Cronin.
Great point.
So, and they're shooting at a high level and it's not fluky. We know they have multiple shooters, shot makers. Kai, I like the Bruins here. I think I lean the favorite.
I'll lean Bruins as well. Yeah.
I do too, because of the pace thing. It just gives them more possessions to extend here. Chris Gibbons wants to know about Charleston and Oklahoma State. This number has come down some, and I think that's also the right direction. I liked Charleston in the opener. I just think that team's really good, and the market's still catching up with Pat Kelsey being there and some of the talent they brought in. They were a hard team to model in the preseason.
Yes,
new coach, new pieces, and they've been really good. That UNC final is not really indicative of that game. They were with them basically the whole time. I think winning at halftime, the Cougars were. So it's a good squad. I think they can hang around with Oklahoma State. Kai, you agree?
I do think they can hang around. My one worry is pace, because we know it's going to be mid-70s, maybe even more possessions in this game because of how much Pat Kelsey wants to run. and how much Mike Boynton will absolutely do the same.
Yep.
That's my one fear here. Oklahoma State can definitely blow this one out if they're on tonight.
All right, let's get one more before we head back to the outline. It is the early game here in Maui, the one I will be racing to. It's Texas A&M and Wisconsin, and I will be the only one racing in any relevance to this game because this is going to be crawl ball. The total is minuscule. Matt, do you see any value on total or side between these two?
I like A&M. I was impressed with what I've seen so far from this team. I know a lot of that was watching them basically rip Houston Baptist to smithereens.
Yes.
Which us three, and Goodman and Douster could probably beat HBU by 15 on a neutral right now. So take that with a grain of salt. But I like this A&M squad. I don't know why. I think Buzz Williams finally has like that right recipe of good athletes, guys who play hard, they play together, and you can't ever quite put your finger on why they're good, but they're just good. And this Wisconsin team is sort of in semi-fade territory right now. Although they are healthy today, Kai, they do get Johnny Davis back, worth mentioning.
Yeah, I don't think A&M is very good. Spread's probably right. Even at 121, Jim, I lean towards the under.
I do too. I think it's going to completely exacerbate itself. These two trying to out slow each other. And then Matt, you mentioned the blowout over Houston Baptist. They did not blow out Texas A&M Corpus Christi. I know you can look at that final score and see they won by 23. They made 6 threes in the final 4 minutes of that game. It was kind of dicey before then. I don't like them as a big favorite, but again, they're not a big fave here. I don't see any value on the side. It's more the total, like Kai mentioned.
Yeah, I endorse that. I mentioned the low totals have been sailing under this year. I don't have the updated numbers of that, but I'm just thinking of off the top of my head, VCU, Chattanooga. Was that yesterday or 2 days ago? So another type of similar setup here where it could be 55, 53 or something stupid.
Yep. All right. I will continue gathering those for the end of the show. Matt, kick it back to you to hit the outline again.
Jim, I'm going to kick it right back to you for this first matchup on the second.
Well, I'm going to kick it right back to you.
No, hot potato fine will play. Well, I guess I'll eventually take the ball and gush about my Kansas State Wildcats. They are playing a semi-home game at the Sprint Center. The team, this is the Hall of Fame Classic MTE 4-teamer. Arkansas, Pick Suey makes the trip up there to KC. So again, that's kind of where you start the handicap is, do you give Kansas State some home court credit? I know them and Kansas play at that gym a lot, so there's some familiarity. Both fan bases travel well. Shockingly, at least in my eyes, the spread's been bet from 8.5 down to 7. So Jim, some folks like us, some purple kittens. This is sort of a close your eyes bet for us, isn't it?
Yeah, I close your eyes for sure. I'm not amped to be back in K-State, but I do think they're going to be better as an underdog. And Arkansas has not been convincing so far this year. Their only cover was a half point against Northern Iowa. They covered minus 12.5 when they were losing at the 3-minute mark. So that tells you how crazy the end game of that one was. There was an intentional foul on Northern Iowa, a clear path. And it took some craziness for Arkansas to get up to that level. Still, though, Arkansas can put runs on people. That is absolutely certain there. I'm not going to give K-State any home. I think Arkansas fans will travel well. This isn't that far for them to get up to KC. So no home court for me, but still a bit of a close your eyes back K-State just because I'm in general still selling Arkansas, Kai.
Yeah, but I'm not buying K-State. They are 0-2 against the spread.
Omaha in the back door. How dare they?
Florida A&M and Omaha. So that's kind of concerning. Arkansas also has been allowing a crazy amount of threes, but that's mostly Northern Iowa. I think you can ignore that stat if you're looking at Arkansas's 3-point variance right now and probably just throw that out. Matt, I'm mostly worried about how your K-State babies are going to handle the ball against Arkansas because I think the pressure is going to get to them. They're going to turn it over a bunch.
No, and Nigel Pack, I trust with my life. I'm just a little worried about Marcus Knoll, who has been a turnover king in years past. This year, his ball security numbers are a lot better. So maybe Bruce Weber has instilled some valuing possession principles in his mind. Just a note on Arkansas, Eric Musselman, Jim calls it spurtability. They kind of own and relish in the fact that they sort of have the ability to play with their food and then hit the turbo when they need to.
Awesome second half team.
They're a great second half team. And I think we in general fall prey to not putting enough value in that. So I think we, as a group, we need to sort of appreciate that they have that. I just still don't think that's a sustainable model in terms of being able to replicate that game in and game out, and why I probably will always have Arkansas, at least this year, slightly lower than the market consensus.
Yeah, Cody is saying it in the chat. Is Arkansas an auto second half max bet? Yep, probably.
Especially if it's like a close game at the half. Yeah. And Northern Iowa, for the record, made insane shots in that game. Like, even though it was a scummy cover or near cover, you could argue that game could have played closer to 15 to 20 if Northern Iowa wasn't making shots from everywhere. So,
yep.
Yeah, hey, we're capable of seeing both sides. We don't hate Arkansas all the time. Good for us. We're so objective. Next game here, Belmont at LSU. Kai, the Purple Tigers have been a cover machine so far. Similar to Arkansas, using a lot of that second half spurt ability to blow past some numbers in more recent games, frustrating non-covers for Texas State backers and Liberty backers more recently.
1 and 2. Yes, those were fun.
Sorry for bringing that up.
Yep.
We are masochists here. Kai, what are you looking at here with this matchup? Belmont, obviously a different animal. I don't think they fall prey to the same pressure, full lawn chair folding that we saw Liberty do.
Yeah, a spurt ability. LSU has that. They have like another gear in late games. Like you said, they've blown everyone out. Sure, some of it came late, but just kind of what they do. It's going to be a high possession game. LSU's been mega efficient this year. So that kind of scares me if you want to bet Belmont. I don't think either team really stops the other one. And total's super high. Total's 158.5. I still think there might be a little bit of value there. I'm leaning towards the over if I'm playing anything in this game.
Yeah, I'm not touching the side. I think I'm still a little lower on LSU. I think those first halves matter, and they've overwhelmed some smaller teams, less athletic teams late with depth.
Yep.
Belmont has depth, their experience, but them stepping up in class hasn't really excited me lately. They're down most of the game to Furman at home. They weren't really in it with Ohio. Ohio kind of ran them out. LSU might be as good or right around what Ohio is. So hard stay away in the side for me. Kai, if anything, I guess maybe the over, but I've had poor luck betting overs this year, folks. Unsurprising for a guy who has the nickname Undertaker, but it's a stay away from me here, unfortunately.
Just general take on LSU. I'm buying into the defense. You look at the personnel, that's been the difference. We know Will Wade has not taught defense effectively the past few seasons, but defense can fluctuate if you have the right guys that can come in and guard, whether you're able to coach it or not. Tari Eason from Cincinnati has been phenomenal. And Eric Gaines, another good on-ball defender on the perimeter. So those are two key upgrades from what they've had in years past. And I think reason to buy into Louisville as a legit defensive team, especially with the way Wade is deploying that pressure. Again, all that is to say, I have no take here. I want to take Belmont, but the LSU spurt ability, as Kai's mentioned, does have me a little worried.
Yep.
Next game here, Northwestern versus Providence. Another MTE showdown. This one is at Newark. So it's sort of again, back to the Kansas State. How much home do you give? Close to Providence's backyard. I mean, it's Northeast corridor, not backyard, but a much easier travel than the Northwestern Purple Kittens have. Some early money, though, the early money has been catching on to the Friars, maybe impressed by that win at Wisconsin. Kai, I know Northwestern is our hometown team, Chicago brethren. Do you think they get it done against the Friars?
No, I don't, Matt. Providence, they beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin. That's impressive. I know Johnny Davis wasn't part of that game, but still.
They controlled it. It wasn't like a lucky, it was their game the whole way.
Yeah, I'm still not sold on Northwestern. I think they're a little bit overrated in the market. They haven't played a team inside the top 260 yet. So I do think Providence is better. Providence opened as a dog. So I was really liking the Friars at that point. I think Nate Watson kind of has his way today. And then Providence's defense, Jim, their perimeter D, Al Durham, I think him and the other guys, they're so big. They can swallow Bowie and Barry for Northwestern. So definitely Providence for me. Teaser, I have a best bet later on in the show on this game.
Oh, I wonder what it is. I wonder what it is. I'm with you. I thought Providence should be favored, and they weren't, and I thought that was crazy. Northwestern just has blown out bad teams and was initially rated really high in analytics, so they haven't gone anywhere. They've stuck right about where they were. I don't think it's a top 50 team, especially if Adij doesn't play. He hasn't debuted yet. That's a concern. So, yeah, I'm definitely a Providence guy here, Matthew.
Lean Providence. I watched the Providence-Wisconsin game, and Providence led wire to wire. I thought Wisconsin missed a lot of shots that they could make, and Providence made some tough ones. Watson was really good in that game. So I don't know. I'm worried that I might be looking too much into that performance as like a launching pad for the Friars going forward. But Northwestern, we saw this story last year where they dominated bad teams in the non-conference. They inflated their analytic ranking. And then when they actually met against a power conference across the aisle, it's like, oh yeah, we're not as good as we were like last week against the Little Sisters of the Poor. So
they had they beat Ohio State, and it was like, okay, so this is
right.
legitimate.
Yep.
And then they tailed off.
And then they did what we thought they would do. So I wonder if that sort of deja vu comes back here to bite the Purple Kids. I lean Providence. Nothing for me in this game officially. Let's carry forward. Last one here before we get to another round of chat mob questions. Nevada versus South Dakota State. This MTE is up in the Pentagon, our favorite venue, one of our favorite venues.
Theme of the show is how much home do you give these teams?
Exactly. Jim, do you have the exact travel time there from South Dakota State to Pentagon? I know we usually have those
I don't.
Off the top of the dome. Okay.
But I do know that this South Dakota State team has played in this venue a bunch. The Summit Tournament is there.
Yes.
The Crossover Classic last year, they played 3 games there, and it's all the same guys. So, I think maybe a half point or a point is worthwhile.
For those actually making doing the component handicapping, if for those that don't, I guess here's my narrative to you. This is basically a mid-major that is a comet right now. Are they this good? Are they overvalued? Could they get better? On the other hand, you have a power conference team that was entered the year with a ton of expectations in a sort of tailspin. Are they this bad? Could they get worse? Is this a good buyback opportunity? So 2 fascinating individual cases to assess here. Kai, I'm going to you. Which of in that tug of war of handicapping conundrums, what wins out?
Well, Matt, I don't really know, and that's why it's called sports betting. No, but
well, I can't see the future, so I don't know.
Nevada struggled. They look better against San Francisco, and South Dakota State's done nothing wrong. I just think it's too many points. And someone pointed out in the chat here, KenPom has this Nevada -2. It's Nevada +3 right now markets. So that is a stark difference that we don't normally see with 2 teams around this rank. I am a little bit surprised that Nevada is a 3-point dog currently at BetRivers. I'm definitely leaning that way, Jim. They're evenly matched teams. And I think Nevada has a higher ceiling still, despite their slow start.
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about Nevada. I don't love the 2 true big lineup they're playing. It feels like it cramps up space for Sherfield and Cambridge. Those guys really excel getting into gaps, and with Baker, I mean, they can stretch the floor, Baker and Washington, but I don't know. Watching them, the cohesion has felt really off. Where South Dakota State has all the continuity, all the cohesion, they know exactly who they are. Their identity is well established. So it kind of doesn't surprise me that they're favored, but 3 is a lot. Having to give a field goal with them is quite a bit. I actually wrote this up at Action Network and would probably still lay the 3. I know that's crazy, but I just have not been a big Nevada fan at this point, and I think the Jackrabbit offense is just crazy tough to stop.
It is. I'm just confused why Nevada's defense has been so bad. They have a lot of size, and I know they've been banged up in the front line, but
Steve Alford.
Is that okay? I was trying to get to the bottom. Jim will assign blame that way. I don't think he's off base at all. Again, this team played decent defense last year, though, and Steve Alford was on the sidelines. You could argue this team's actually built to defend better than last year's version. I'm looking at their opponents: Nevada, San Diego, Santa Clara, San Francisco. 3 awesome WCC teams that no one really saw coming being this good. I think maybe we saw San Francisco being awesome, but no one saw Santa Clara. No one saw San Diego. Point being, I think we look back at those 3 losses in a month or 2, and they don't look as horrible as they do now. No, losing by 22 to Santa Clara is inexcusable. I agree. Losing at home to San Diego, I'm making excuses, but I think those losses age a little better than we're giving credit for. I kind of lean the pack here, but trust Jim. Jim has better instincts for the Jack Bunnies, so don't listen to me. Ignore me.
To be clear, my number isn't in love with this game. This one's more of a gut feel for me.
Yeah, mine leans closer to KenPom, actually. I think this should be a little closer to a pick, but again, closer to home for South Dakota State. A little familiarity playing in the Pentagon. And back to chat mob questions, round 2. Jim, any more coming through the pipeline?
Always, Matthew. Matt Catenacci wondering about Harvard headed to Siena, a Siena team that has been bad. They've seemed to quit a couple times in second halves, the Bonaventure game most notably, and then Yale just absolutely took them to the woodshed. They do have Andrew Platek in the lineup now. The North Carolina transfer is eligible. Harvard's been pretty solid. You see anything here, Matthew? This was a kind of shrug. I made the spread what it is. Stay away from me.
I looked at this game for a good 10 minutes last night. I answered on my bet sheet, and I'm just like, no, screw this. I'm tired of watching Siena fold, which they've done. Even with Platek for a second game, Aiden Carpenter, a key guard, maybe out. They've been really banged up. It seems like they're sort of just licking their wounds and biding time until conference play. And it's just in general a theme. A lot of these mid-majors, low majors that struggle out of the gate, and they kind of pack it in until conference play. And I just don't think there's a lot of fight right now from the Saints guy.
No, I'm staying away. I lean Harvard.
All right, next one for the chat mob. Jordan Block, wondering if Nichols -5 is a little too low. My answer would be yes if Jacob Davison is out for Cal Poly again. So this one is a major check the lineup because he missed last game and they got absolutely demolished by Santa Clara, and Nichols is pretty decent. So check for Davison, the Eastern Washington transfer. He matters. That's pretty big. We got a 2-pack from Howie Ree. I'm going to give each of you one of these. Matt, you get Fordham Akron. He's eyeing up possibly Fordham as a 11-point dog, roughly. He's worried about their second half collapses, though. Do you see anything in this one as an Akron backer usually?
I'm actually on Fordham here. I like the Rams. I looked at, you look at this roster. You look at Fordham and Akron's roster side by side. I know Akron had that awesome opening day performance against Ohio State. Ohio State needed a miracle to escape. Since then, they've been off the radar because I think they played 2 exhibitions. So it's like, oh yeah, here's Akron again playing a D1 game. We forgot about them. But my original point was I think the talent is pretty close. I don't think this is like a Akron's here, Fordham's here type of thing. And so on a neutral, it tends a lot. I like Fordham.
All right. Well, surprising. Kai, yours. Troy at Florida Atlantic, the last day of this MTE. FAU hosting. Troy, 5.5 roughly point dog. What do you think?
Jim, I got nothing in this game.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing.
I'm not that high on FAU. I think Troy's a dog's pretty feisty, but no Duke Miles yet. Their starting point guard. That still has me a bit hesitant on the Trojans. All right. One more from Matt Catanacci. Matt, to you, I have a side I like in this game, but Creighton, Southern Illinois. You're the MVC guy. What do you think?
Yeah, kind of an old throwback to the old MVC when the Jays used to be there. It does feel a little low, and Southern Illinois has some injury issues in the backcourt. I have not done my diligence there. Apologies for the bad show prep. I believe Trent Brown missed last game, as well as another key guard there. And Creighton is growing up very fast, Jim. Maybe this is the time to hop in on the Creighton wagon.
Yeah, Creighton was not bad yesterday, but Colorado State went absolutely nuclear from the 3-point line. I think this Creighton team is pretty solid. They control the paint with Kalkbrenner. I think they can do that against Southern Illinois. A little bit of a low spread. It's been bet up though, I think. So maybe be wary at the current number. All right. Couple more on the in the chat. Joe Kidd, Matt, your boy, thinks EKU runs out Eastern Illinois today. Do you agree?
Actually, no, he's probably right. Eastern Illinois is a hard fade. I think I took a total in this game. I think I like the over. I don't really have a good reason as to why. I'm blanking. There's too many games, too many angles that I looked at last night, but I think there's a lot of points. EKU probably blows them out, opens the game up. Marty Ball, the slow, methodical half-court pace probably gets thrown out the window. If they're down 20 in the second half, he just lets them go play. So I like the over. So I guess that correlates with my boy Jay Kidd's take. So yes, Eastern Kentucky and over. Boom.
Yep. All right. Last one for you, Kai. Kyle
Yes.
CM, Brown in Colorado from the Paradise Jam.
Eileen Brown. Colorado is kind of
Bad.
weird right now. They have not been impressive. This is a lot of points, double digits. Brown could not hang with Creighton, a team I thought they could hang with, was wrong. But then they bounced back quickly against Bradley. And yeah, Colorado just hasn't gotten away from anybody this year. So I'm leaning towards the Ivy boys. Hopefully Cho fully back integrated in the lineup. It allows them to perform a little bit better than against Creighton.
Yep.
I'm too,
Kinda with
like
you.
Brown.
It's not quite a bet for me, but it's close. My number leans that way. All right, guys, we teased best bets earlier. I hope you remember what yours were. I will kick it off for my best bet. That will be St. Mary's +1 on the road, or not on the road, excuse me, here in Vegas against Notre Dame, the nightcap.
Just down the road. Just down the road is what you're trying. Yeah.
Yep. I'm going with the Gales. I think they are able to execute, and because they're not at an athletic disadvantage, I will go with SMC. Kai, what do you have?
Providence, it's down to pick. I had a little value before the show, but now it's pick. So Providence pick against Northwestern on a neutral.
I'm taking Cincinnati, Jim, for my best bet. I didn't really talk about this in the outline today. Kofi Coburn return, and so that's probably got people's attention for Illinois. It seemed like before he returned, the games leading up to this, they've been lined and priced as if he was playing. So it kind of concerns me that now I'm coming in as a fade Illinois at the wrong time. But in general, integrating a new key piece after there's been some continuity established with the roster for 3 or 4 games doesn't always go well. It can kind of backfire. Now, Kobe's a different animal, and I don't want to be cute about trying to pick an angle that Kobe's going to hurt Illinois in this game. It's just a good matchup for Cincinnati. They're physical, they're tough, they're long, and they can bother Illinois' backcourt, which has struggled with ball security. Sort of the same blueprint that we saw Marquette use to thwart them. I like the Bearcats catching 9.5 at the Sprint Center.
Yeah, I wanted the 10, Matthew. I'm a little nervous, but I lean towards your way on Cincinnati as well.
Hoping they can keep the pace low. So there you have it. Cincy, Providence, and St. Mary's are our 3 for today. That's all we got. We are
wrap
back.
It up, Matt. Time for me to go to Maui.
Yep, Jim's got to go. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, I believe. We tweeted out that schedule, so make sure to check us on Twitter. We'll keep you guys posted on to when we will be recording this program. And always remember to subscribe. Field of 68. Hit that button right now before we sign off. Do that. Close out of the window, and then kick your feet up and watch some hoop, as I will be doing shortly. Until tomorrow,